extensive research, but in the old days, military people, Civil War, World War I, World War II, the rifles were not even fired during the skirmishes. The guys chose to die at that moment. They could not pull the trigger on another human being. And
powerful.
To overcome that, it takes programming.
Sure.
And this book breaks it down. I highly recommend this book. It's called On Killing. And it's not what you think.
Do you remember who the author is?
Offhand, no, I don't. But it's very easy. You can just Google On Killing. Actually, you're going to do that on your phone now. And it gives the detailed, the intimate details, because he's interviewed people who have killed. He's interviewed people who did it in military service and police service, and it's actually became required reading for any officer. And it talks about how people have to be programmed to kill, because it's not actually in our nature to kill. Very few people is it in their nature to just murder.
And the author is Dave Grossman.
Yes, Dave Grossman. On Killing.
The Psychological Cost of Learning to Kill in War.
Yes.
Wow.
It's brilliant. I recommend it to everybody. I've given it to my son who's a teenager to read. And, you know, at the face value of the book, someone would be like, why would you do that? Because it tells the truth.
Right.
It tells the details.
You know, and it reminds me of when I was listening to Alex Jones, not to plug another show, but I mean it's a valuable resource of information.
Alex, plug us.
Yeah, plug us. Come on. One man washes the other. So, but you know, listening to Alex Jones on Infowars.com, and he was talking about that and I actually saw the articles myself, and it came out about the police forces across America having ordered and were training with targets, shooting targets. They call them no hesitation targets or non-hesitation targets, right? Like pregnant women and things like that, little children, stuff like that, so that they would train them to not hesitate to pull the trigger, regardless of what the target was.
Yeah.
Frightening. It was happening the same time when they started ordering all that ammo and the hollow point ammo by the billions and things like that. So I mean, something's definitely coming. Obviously, there's something on the horizon. I think if you're a skeptic and just listen to shows like this,
at least
like,
research
come on.
it.
If you take a step back and just look at everything collectively, I mean, you really can't. If you have a modicum of common sense, you should be able to just see what's coming.
You know what? I want to present a challenge to anybody, because, you know, although some of you listen live and some of you listen to recording, but in the future, this show may be played, 5 years down the road. This episode by some random person just searching information. And I challenge you, take anything we say, and you can negate it, that's fine. But just at least research a little bit into it for your own satisfaction, your own curiosity. Because this is when I stumbled on the big stuff.
Right. By
just being open, not brainwashing myself, not saturating myself. I don't listen to Alex Jones, but like once every couple of years, and it's because of a specific topic he touches on. But research just a little bit. Just get as much information as you can, and you'll find that there is something amiss. And that's why I have no problem.
Shows like this are like a time capsule. They're like a time capsule of information.
Yeah, and like Bill Cooper, the guy who made the prophecy from a long time ago about how to overthrow society, and he's dead now.
I'm not familiar with that, but I'm gonna have to look that up.
Oh my God, there's so much good stuff.
That would be from another time capsule, and there you go. So things that like this.
1984.
Is the 1984 the book?
Yeah.
Oh right, you're saying 1984 is
it's
like
a prophecy, time, bro.
Absolutely, and we're not. And again, I want to make it clear that we're not claiming to be prophets here, because it's not about being a prophet, and it's not even being about being super. It's not even about being super educated. I mean, I'm not Ivy League educated or anything like that. I'm barely out of high school myself, but I can read, and I'm observant. I have a little bit of what's called situational awareness.
Don't downplay yourself, because a lot of people with Ivy League educations have zero capability in real life.
Right, well, because because you're talking about state educated, so. Yeah, that's an excellent point there.
They can't turn a wrench.
I mean, if you're not gonna really even grasp a lot of this stuff, let alone have the critical thinking ability to be able to kind of think outside of the box.
Critical thinking.
Right. That's really what it takes. I mean, you have to be able to get outside of the box of your state education training, and be willing to explore other possibilities, and look at the big picture, and look at the world at large, and be a student of history. There's a guy at my job I know I always refer to stuff like this because it's where I spend most of my time. But there's a guy at my job, an older gentleman, and I was talking to him about just different recent events and situations, 9/11 being one of them, things of that nature. And he was, his thing was, oh, you really believe that our government would do something to our own American citizens, to their own American citizens? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And he's like, why? Why would they do that? Give me one situation in history where that's ever happened. I said, gee, well, off the top of my head, the Gulf of Tonkin. Let's start there. And you know what came out of his mouth?
What?
What's that?
Of course.
Now, this guy is like 50 years old. And I'm like, dude, I'm half your age. And you mean to tell me I'm half your age and I know twice as much about history than you do?
It doesn't surprise me a bit, though. But it doesn't surprise me as a bit. If you're not looking for something on the side of the street and you refuse to put your eyes to the side of the street, you'll never see that gold watch that was lying there that somebody dropped. Right. So that's what happens with people. They're not actually looking for these things. And keep in mind, the average person is caught up in their 40-hour, 45-hour work week. They have no time to focus on anything else than their slave, and I say this very liberally, their slave system lifestyle.
But it's deeper than that, because, I mean, the words out of his mouth, at least, and this was out of his mouth, but it's not only out of his mouth, it's what I've heard time and time again, which was that ignorance is bliss.
Yep.
Oh, if I don't know about it, I'm like, dude, but it's bliss now. When they come knocking on your door 5 years from now, 10 years from now, demanding to see your papers and hauling you off to some kind of concentration camp, you're not going to feel so blissful at that moment, are you?
Actually, he'll go along because he doesn't know what's
happening.
happening.
Along with the system. And then people think that those who go along with the system will be spared. But the ones who go along with the system are the first ones who were executed because you're considered a traitor.
When the Germans gathered the Jewish people went along. They were like, okay, these are the people in power. Right. These are the politicians. Right. These are the police. Right. Let's go along.
Yeah. How'd that work out for them?
Don't start any trouble with these guys.
Don't start. And there won't be none.
If you do enough information research into any of these circumstances, it's better off to die. I hate to say that, but rather than me lined up at a firing squad of somebody that hates me or is going to behead me, I'd rather kick and scream before I go. I'm sorry.
Damn right. Take out as many of them with me as possible.
Either way, just even if you can just get away, why walk to your death like a cattle or like a steer to the slaughterhouse?
Sheep to the slaughter, right?
Why? Yep. Know what's going on. And you know what? That's one of the things that I hope...
If you act like a sheep, you'll be devoured by wolves.
Absolutely. I hope that we can inspire people to at least look into what's happening. Politics are not for politicians, all right? Politics are for you. If you're not willing to be engaged into what's happening in your world, it's going to affect your children. Right. It's going to affect their children. If you don't have children, fine. Just live out your life and don't care about anybody else. That's cool, if that's your route. But for everybody else, at least look into it. Question it. Ask yourself, is this true? And if it were true, how does this affect me? And that's when you start stumbling upon things. And you know what? Test it. Test it over and over and over to see if it's true. And if it is, then's the time to stand up and start spreading the word, which is why we even have this show.
Right, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I'll even go a step further to say that study it, look it up for yourself. Again, like you were saying, at least look it up. At least have enough sense of self-preservation to want to look into the information that's given to you. And if you come to the conclusion somehow that we're wrong and everybody else who's talking about this stuff is absolutely wrong and nothing's going to happen, whatever, fine, more power to you, awesome, I'm glad you came to that conclusion. Personally, I know that's not going to happen, but hey,
you're going to stumble across something.
If you get lucky and you do somehow manage to dilute yourself to think that that's a possibility, great, awesome. I hope that you can share some of those drugs, that information with me.
Fluoride.
To make me feel all warm and fuzzy. And on that topic, because just like I was explaining to somebody last night when I was having this type of discussions, this is not about fear, because the individual that I was speaking to last night was saying that, doesn't this stuff scare you? Because that's kind of the reason why I don't like to listen to this stuff and learn about this stuff and hear about it, because I don't want to be scared. It's frightening. We already live in a scared enough world, this, that, and the other. And I said to them, this is how I look at it. If you were my neighbor and your house was on fire and I came over to your house and knocked on the door and you answered, I said, hey, Your house is on fire. You should probably get out of there.
I'm sleeping. Go away.
No, stop telling me my house is on fire. You're frightening me. That's not what you're going to say. You're going to look back and you say, holy crap, my house is on fire. And you're going to go running. You're not going to tell me, hey, stop scaring me.
No.
And that's what's going on right now. Our house is on fire.
It is.
And we need to run, or we need to do something. We need to do something. That's why we don't need to run, because that's only going to allow our house to burn to the ground.
Yep.
But right now the roof is on fire. The ceiling, the roof, it's the top of the roof outside is on fire.
But we need water. Do not let this
right.
burn.
Exactly. So don't run away from it. Don't come to answering the door and tell me I'm scared. You're scaring me. Go away. And don't go just running away. Let's get together. Let's go grab some freaking water and let's douse this thing before it spreads.
Yep.
Before it burns down our house and it spreads to our neighbors.
Find some like-minded people to help us put the fire out.
Amen and hallelujah to that.
Right on.
And that's what this is all about. It's about just educating and building an army of enlightened individuals that want to make a difference. And I don't mean an army of armed militia going out wanting to overthrow anything. This is just about enough people who are educated enough and think outside the box enough to stand up and say no to the powers that be, say no to the status quo. Because until that happens, they're just going to keep doing it over and over again. Because if you keep buying it, they're just going to keep making it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's supply and demand. Government political policy is just like any other corporation. It's supply and demand.
It's actually all corporation now.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody's bought.
And the philosophy of how it's operated is just like a corporation. That's why I hate it when I speak to far right leaning Republicans. It's like, oh, we need to hire, we need to elect a major business,
No, I can actually
business mogul.
Elaborate on that, because that's what I believe.
That we should elect a
let me elaborate.
business mogul.
Because when it comes to business,
I beg to differ. No, please,
I understand your thought process, over the time that we've gotten to speak. But when you want somebody to run things right financially, you hire somebody who's financially not only stable but successful.
Sure.
And so in terms of policy for financial reasoning, you would want to do that. But as a president, as a CEO, you can't do that.
Right.
Because if you're too corporate minded, you might be bought already.
Yeah,
if it's all about the money and nothing but the money,
right.
then yes.
Then you're going to work for where the money comes from.
Right. The same way of hiring somebody who's gung-ho military, like the regimes overseas. If your whole life is about overthrowing and murdering people to obtain power, a la Castro, then what kind of a society do you build? So you have to be careful with that. You need people with balance, people with good understanding. So, yeah, technically a good CEO from a company, but what company are you going to hire them from? Because what company do we have now that's so ethical that it doesn't harm anybody in the process?
Right, none.
So that philosophy is debunked right there.
Right there.
It's like dreaming, what is it, the youth, God, what is the word for like paradise?
Utopia?
Utopian philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds perfect. No guns, no violence, no animals that bite you in the ankle, no yapping chihuahuas. Animals are all quiet and everybody lives happy and peaceful. Yeah, it's not that way.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Right. Unfortunately.
And this is why it's so important to be engaged in your politics.
Right.
And the policies that are being made,
right.
and the police that are enforcing the policies, and our soldiers who are constantly at risk trying to enforce the policies of our government. If you're not involved, who's at the wheel?
Right.
Who's driving?
Exactly, and it goes to that old saying: if you're it doesn't matter if you're not interested in politics. Politics is interested in you.
Absolutely, I like that.
They don't care. They don't care. Cool. They'd rather you not be interested because that's more like you said.
Shut up and give me your taxes.
Exactly. Okay. So cool. So give me the wheel. I got this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you're doing when you elect somebody. I always got the biggest kick, when Obama was elected, not because of anything that, the media was portraying, but here's somebody from nowhere that nobody knows anything about who's done nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's a fact. Right. Community organizing is not a prestigious achievement.
Right.
It's not. I'm sorry. We have really great leaders in churches. Why do they get ignored? Because they're Christians? We have really great leaders at the YMCA. Why did they get ignored? Mm-hmm. Because they're too poor? What is the reason?
Right.
These are people that are qualified, actually more so than Obama was.
Right. Well, I mean, it's obvious that Obama was selected, not elected.
Duh.
He was like, I know I'm kind of stating the obvious here, people. I do apologize, but I mean, there are some people